Hello and welcome to another episode of Speculative Speculations. I'm Varsha.
I'm Chris.
And this is a series where we talk about speculative stories in all their forms. Reamde is back. This is the second last discussion for Reamde by Neal Stephenson.
The last before the last.
The last
before the last. See, that's only to be used where nostalgia applies, where, we will look back on this as not when there is joy to be found in the fact that this is getting over.
I get you.
But that's why we need to drag it out without just saying, what was the word you suggested? Penultimate. So if using short words, we drag it out.
Neal Stephenson's been dragging this out a lot better than any of us have been doing, but there you go.
The short story for today is Let Us Save the Universe by, how do you pronounce Stanisław Lem. I just learned. Yes. There is an accent or thing on the L, so I Googled how to pronounce that. I don't know if I said it right. But no short story next week because we have nearly 200 pages to read in Reamde and we will be done. So that will be the last discussion for Reamde. The book after that is going to be Memory Called Empire by Arkady Martin. Don't know if I'm pronouncing that correctly, but we'll find out when we start. I think that's it. That's all the bookkeeping stuff. If you'd like to join us for any of these discussions, please check out the Patreon forum. And that's it. Over to you, Chris and Jared. What did we think of days 18 and 19? That's what we read, right?
Not terrible. Yeah. Not terrible.
We spent a lot of time in the game this week. Yeah.
Well, we do, but I think the structure and the way he tells a story changes a lot in 18 and 19, and I think it's very much for the better, because it does give a propulsion, and you never get bogged down in details too much. There's just always something happening as we jump around.
Yeah, things are starting to converge, just starting, and so you can tell that it's going to, lead to probably this big ultimate, conflict or resolution of some sort in the next mere 200 pages, and at least this section was more enjoyable than most of the previous sections we read, and we got a little bit of gaming in, we got a little bit of coincidental bypassing on the highway, and but we got connection. That's the main thing. We got connection at some point, with Olivia doing her legwork, Seamus doing his legwork,
James,
and James, and the Boston Bacon, and
Boston Bacon.
They're all starting to put two and two together. I mean, I suppose you could.
Well, they're starting to put two and two together and coming up with 6, but that's okay. We will.
Quite a bit of that. Yep.
Yes.
That's okay.
Yeah. I almost like the fact, like the accidental bypassing on the highway. It was just slightly too blatantly done for my taste.
Do you know what? It was fine actually until Zulu observed that it must have been him.
Yeah.
It was absolutely fine until that point.
Yeah.
Yep. Absolutely.
Until that point, it was great. Like, we know these characters are getting there, and but it's like we want them to meet, so we're sort of getting into that process. And then Zula had to go and think that, and I'm like, damn it, Neal, stop that.
In a way that you could never, like, again, I'm going to start off by rank. This is literally my only criticism of the entire 2 chapters, or the 2 sections that we read, was that line. I mean, there were bad jokes and a lot of things in it, but literally that point, there was no need. Like, it was a nice coincidence and kind of like a light reference in this book that kind of would have stood and been quite, oh, God, if only they knew that it was the same thing, until she added that unnecessary line. It's like some of the quips at the end that are just ruin the tension and all of that kind of stuff. It was just not needed. But There we
Yeah,
go.
yeah.
That's my grumble for the entire episode, though. That's it.
Nice.
Yeah. And it's a good grumble because she sits there and says, "Oh, I think it's possible, just possible that might have been my Uncle Richard." No, I definitely know it was. And it's like, no, you don't.
And honestly, even more than her figuring that out, I feel like that's what makes it annoying, I think, is that that's there for the reader's benefit. Because it feels like the author doesn't think, just telling us that there was an RV in their path and then coming in Richard's path, which he honked at, and then coming back to Zula in the RV being honked at, is not enough for us to put 2 and 2 together and not come up with 6. Like, we need Zula to do the math for us. But yeah, I agree. I agree. There was very little that I rolled my eyes at this week. So yeah, let's talk about the good stuff.
Yeah, he got that out of the way pretty quick. So
Yeah, he did. Yeah. Good stuff. I mean, these really short sections of jumping between people is exactly the narrative style you use for a technical thriller that's ramping up towards the end. It's exactly how all of these books work. Dan Brown does it. We've talked about before. This kind of idea that you really create a pace leading up to the end of the book. Even though we're still 300 pages out at the point of this, you definitely feel like you could rattle through the last 300 pages of this quite quickly. And you do it by all these disparate characters, sort of giving them all purpose and all drive, but the exception of Sokolov. I think he forgot about Sokolov for about 150 pages and then went, shit, Sokolov, what am I going to do with him? But apart from him, and he's obviously come back into it towards the end, they've given him reason and all of that kind of stuff, this love affair attraction with another one of the females. They've done that. And sort of all sort of makes, I wouldn't say makes sense, but it certainly fits within the parameters of the world that he set up so far, and the kind of ridiculous nature of it and all of that kind of stuff. It sort of works within the confines of that.
Yeah.
The spy world of this world, where things just conveniently fall into place sometimes, and characters just happen to meet up, happen to run across each other again, and want to run across each other again, because by all rights, Sokolov, that kind of character should disappear. It should,
that's what his history tells you. That's what
his MO was that before the mission was screwed, like it was toast, it was done. He should disappear, and the fact that he's coming back again, like you said, it's kind of like, okay, it's kind of movie-ish, like get the characters together, to make Paco and Poppers happy, and keep the handsome star on the screen.
Yeah, but that's exactly what it feels like. It feels like they cast somebody really famous in that role, right? Mm-hmm. And they had to get their money's worth. So he had to be around for the finale or something at the end. So Brad Pitt got an executive producer credit, and we're like, what else are we going to do with him?
Yeah. That's funny. I agree. I think that's what a lot of this felt like. Even the Marlin Yusha thing, where they're now headed to the States and they're finding a way for them to come there and probably be part of the final action, because Boston Bacon figured out that sorry, what's his name? Seamus, yes.
Boston Bacon.
That they are headed to this specific area in North America. Yeah, I think I'm gonna try and stay positive by ignoring the leaps that these characters are making of reasoning. But anyway, it all feels like a bit of a stretch that they would do that. And there are attempts to make it difficult with that argument that Seamus has with what's his name, Freddie, at the embassy. But yeah, they're all coming together and everybody will be there for the final fight scene. And it's not a year yet since Thanksgiving, so we're probably not going to have Thanksgiving. It's probably not going to be the shootout at the ranch, but then that is also 4 hours long in the audiobook, so I wonder what that's going to be. What happens a year from now? That
Something
requires
to look
4
forward
hours.
to, Forsha.
I think so.
Yeah.
Yeah,
It's
because
a pretty big, long coda. Yeah.
yeah. If this is the ending, I would have guessed that the shootout we've been anticipating will be the ending. Then it's not going to happen a year later. So nearly a year later.
It does bring up the question, though, is it going to be a shootout? Because a lot of this part of the book, the conflict happened within Tyrion itself, obviously, with the Marlon trying to gather his money and do the gold run, being very careful and all the rest of it, and then a Dodge or Egg Dodd looking on from above in the sky and doing that kind of stuff. Again, I think this book is actually at its best when it actually sets the story in there, because it, again, within a game context or otherwise, it sort of makes more sense. A lot of this stuff, a lot of the ridiculousness and all of that kind of stuff, even with people from the outside looking and playing it, you can kind of see okay, this works, and the locations don't matter there because they're literally within all one game, and it's quite conceivable that they could all be there at the same time and kind of be watching each other and doing all of that kind of stuff. And I thought the Tyrion stuff again was quite strong actually in this game, because it does sort of ring true to what way those games operate and that kind of stuff. So yeah, that was fun.
Yeah, I really like the when they brought up the how they get gold from the game into the real world by sacrificing it to the gods. I thought that was actually kind of brilliant. I really liked that part of it, and I thought, I really like. Yeah, you were right. You're absolutely right about the game stuff was the strongest part, and especially that making up that kind of things for the game mechanics to work with the situation in the world that they're in. Pretty cool stuff.
And I think it actually speaks to Stephenson, even though I've certainly made a lot of fun of this for the past couple of weeks. I think in those moments where he's actually talking about the construction and the world building and some of those bits within it, he shows he's a really good intellectual thinker, which is what you want out of a sci-fi novel. So I wouldn't totally give up on Stephenson after this. I just think he lacked a good enough editor or somebody around him to say, this needed to be trimmed or something. But like you were just saying there, Jared, a lot of those things are very good actually within it, and those ideas that are within it, they do fire the imagination and stuff very strongly.
Yeah, I agree. I think, and I have been curious about that. I think Quicksilver is one of his more famous novels, and I looked it up, and apparently it addresses a lot of issues of like consciousness and free will and all those things, which, if he uses the same approach, the think out loud kind of thing that he's been doing, I wouldn't quite call it stream of consciousness, but it's like thinking out loud aspect of it. I think that could work for exploration of those kinds of subject matters, right? Because and he does seem to have good insights, like you said. So maybe that's the setting in which it's supposed to work, and he brought it here to explore all the inner workings and reasonings for decision making here, which
yeah, one of the things he brought up was Zula was making a point about hiring practices and stuff like that, and how type was it A's hire A's and B's hire C's, and how that and she explained that whole thing about recruiting the very best people and all that stuff, and it kind of sets up the future failure of the jihadists to come here, because she recognizes that some of the people now around her are C or D's, and they're going further down the chain there, and so that kind of sets up something in the future that's going to say that these people are going to mess up, that are that it's not Jones who's going to mess up, it's going to be these people below him that are going to mess up, and we'll see how that plays out.
Yeah. It's interesting though. That bit was interesting, and I vaguely agreed with that setup. But I was curious. This coming from Zula, I wish there was an omniscient narrator for this, because in for this whole book maybe, because like you said, Jared, lots of characters tell us what other characters are thinking in their introspection. It, like, maybe an omniscient narrator would have just told us, and that's it. We don't need to learn from this character what that other character is thinking. But in that vein, I think for I wish that we had learned that ABC thing from an external entity and not from Zula, because from her it comes off as complacency, because she's done this before where she thought she was safe, or where she's like in a good place, or she thinks that she can manipulate them based on absolutely nothing whatsoever. Um, so coming from her, it feels like almost wishful thinking or complacency. But if it had been an external operator telling us that this is the case, then it would have worked better as a setup for eventual failure. But yes, like I think, yeah, it probably also serves as justification that um that Zula's not really smarter than these people. It's just that they put bad people in charge. But again, like, I feel like we need to learn that from someone else, if that makes sense, because she even doesn't even fully understand the language they're speaking.
Yeah, good point. Good point indeed. Yeah, the constant, basically the constant Zula being the omniscient narrator, just by magically figuring stuff out is
Yeah.
Doing the work of an omniscient narrator, basically. But I think we've gone over that quite a bit from the last time. She seems to guess so much.
Yeah, it's just, well, she's very clever. You can see why everybody likes her.
Oh, yeah, that's right. Oh,
she's very insightful.
I forgot I was speaking to
the big reveal.
Again.
Yeah. Speaking about Zulu, you've got to understand that the big reveal is coming towards the end here, when we actually find out that she is omniscient, and that she must have known that was the car, because she's both inside and outside the van.
Yeah. Well, you know why? It's because in the next 200 pages, we're going to find out this was all just a video game, and she's actually
exactly right. She is Egg-Dawed up in the sky, looking down and everything. You see, it's all there.
By the way, that scene was really cool when they are in the game, and then they look up in the sky, and there's just like two people staring down at events. I think that was Egg-Dawed and the C plus or C star or whatever.
Corvallis, sorry. Yeah, but even the spell, the light spell that was going off, that has been never used before, again, quite cool within game terms. But also, again, this is where I really liked this part. Like, he goes for the explanation of, if it was just all of the emitters on the screen turning white, then you just would have seen tubes and nothing else. But they did it another way. Again, I thought that was quite clever and quite, more novel than it needed to be. In some ways, they could have just passed it off quite rightly. It shows that there's intelligence written in parts of this, which kind of just makes contrast the other bits that are a bit unbelievable, just a bit too much, because you're sort of bouncing your head back off a wall all the time, going, God, that was really clever and smart, and then going, this is dumb. Like what? Like our friend Igor, who gets introduced here, he's literally introduced about 15 pages for the first time before in the book to get somebody for Sokolov to come meet. Like, nobody meant... am I wrong? He has not been mentioned beforehand, this kind of going back into Peter's apartment and getting the gun and doing that. That wasn't... That could have and should have been introduced, like, way beforehand. Like, if again, do it that way round, this makes some sort of sense. You're kind of going, where does Igor come back into this? Actually, now it makes sense, because Sokolov's going to go to his house and stay there, and he'll be somebody that's linked to him and all the rest of it. But they do the classic thing that they do, which is 10 pages before he's needed, we're going to introduce him as an idea.
Oh, that's right. I totally forgot about that. Yeah.
Sort of expected.
He was never introduced before. He, like, back when...
I don't think so.
Back when they had Peter and Are you sure he wasn't part of the crew?
Well, he might have been part of the crew, but he certainly wasn't. That idea that he went back, that somebody went back to his flat. And, like, I understand the logistics of that, because how could they have introduced that with the idea that we were concentrating on Sokolov and Ivanov and all that kind of stuff flying across? They didn't know. But they could have done it any other way, because they did the China thing with the police kind of doing the cover-up, of the explosion and all of that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
To kind of put this. So there are definitely ways to do it, but it just felt kind of shoehorned into the plot to kind of make it work, because no sooner was he there than he was gone again. You know what I mean? He went out the front door and Sokolov went out the back door, kind of thing. To be with his girl and that kind of stuff. But at a certain point, I'm not really criticism, but because it's very much of the form of what's happened an awful lot through this novel, if that makes sense. He's very consistent about that.
Yeah. But we've been criticizing that form in general. So that's fair.
Yep. I liked Olivia coming back, or I don't know if she was ever gone. I think she goes dark a couple of times, right? She disappears because she wants to be able to follow her theory freely and no one will listen to her. That's her motivation, right? I don't think I fully understood why she did what she did, and I vaguely rolled my eyes at the fact that she ditched her people to go off on her own. But I think there is some justification there, right? That nobody else is willing to let her follow her theory about where Jones has ended up.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it brings up the explanation. Seamus says that he can narrow down where Jones is because of the work that she did, and she's doing it, not with any help from her
right
superiors and stuff, or her people she works with. And so they kind of explain it all. It was okay. I didn't mind that at all, actually. I was kind of into it, and I like how he said the brave, brilliant British girl who single-handedly tracked Jones down in Zeaman and collected priceless surveillance data on him. So she gets her props from these other people that she's working with, and this Freddy guy and Seamus and stuff. And so that was pretty cool, because that was like right at the end of the section we just finished here, and so it was, and of course they realized that Abdallah Jones, killed a bunch of their guys.
Yeah.
At some point, and so this gives them a lot of motivation now to help out Olivia and have this thing come together and get it done.
Yeah, it actually was. I really liked the bit where her reputation has actually been built through her actions, because I think that is probably true in this case. Her having survived that, still being an active part of the investigation, even to the point that she was showing of the conversation with Richard, etc., about how to find Seamus's real location and ringing his landline. Again, I think that those are the kind of things that do feel spy-like, do kind of enhance her character and her other people's belief in her capability. I think those things kind of do kind of evolve into that, and she becomes somebody that was literally just staring through a camera for 6 months, to being somebody that has development in them, and that has kind of developed along and has got people kind of hanging on her words and respect from people that have obviously been in the spy game and that kind of stuff for a very long time. So that to me, that felt quite believable in a lot of ways, because they did that character development quite well, even though it was like reverse James Bond, because she did the sleeping Sokolov as part of it. It was like, it's cool.
Right. Who else? Richard, what was he up to in these sections?
Sitting on a toilet.
That's true.
26 hours apparently.
Yeah. Well, what I liked about actually Richard's part was, because we got this big history about him and how he used to be a smuggler and how he used to be, when in his younger days he was quite the guy, And what I liked is he was on the game for how many hours, and he was exhausted, and I liked how he didn't all of a sudden become an action hero when these guys barged into his house and stuff like that, and and Jones went in there and started talking to him, whatever. And I liked the fact that it wasn't like this action hero moment. All of a sudden he's super Richard, and no, he's exhausted. He's been playing this game for 24 hours or whatever it was, and he didn't get any sleep, and he's older now, and so I liked how all those considerations were there, and it didn't turn into this oh, suddenly I'm going to take these terrorists out,
Yeah,
Reality,
that bit was believable and good. Again, I think they've done a decent job with Richard in terms of we've seen him in lots of different scenarios where he has been under pressure, but not really under pressure. He's sort of like a cool, calm dude, but he has limitations, and I think we're going to see more of that as we come along. He's a smart guy who knows his way around the block, but he's not comfortable with jihadi terrorists and all of that kind of stuff the way normal people wouldn't be. Like everybody else seems to be comfortable with him to a certain point, like Chongor and stuff. Like Chongor as a character is another guy that should be so far out of his comfort zone here that he clams up inside, but he's sort of rising to the occasion and still in love with Zula, who he knew for about 72 hours. Yeah.
I mean, with Zula, it only takes a day.
Well, that is true. And to be fair, he was very taken. He was taken back by the fact that she mentioned me in the letter, in the note that she said. I was in it. Oh my God, that must mean something. I mean, that bit's believable.
That means a word.
Yeah.
Although I have to say, the character of Russia, again, I feel like he's struggling to know what to do with her.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah. She's also, I guess, she's also vaguely a piece of meat for the men, I guess. She's also all the others, all the men around her are vaguely falling for her. Shongor, the only reason he's not is because he's already in love with Zula. So, I'm bound elsewhere. But if I wasn't, he's made sure to let us know that, right? And then Seamus comes in, and then he's falling for her apparently. And Marlon, the thing that happens in the streets where I don't know, Marlon says something to Yusha and Shongor is it interprets it as a boyfriend being annoyed with his girlfriend. It could also be Big Brother being annoyed with a younger sister, but that's like everybody's in love with Yusha. Olivia sleeps with everyone she meets. It's and I mean I'm glad that the women have roles sort of that are more than that, but that also seems to be a thing, a recurring theme with all of them.
To be fair, I think it's sort of accurate of men. Stuck in singular company with the same woman for more than 24 hours with very little outside interference. That probably is what happened,
Really? Is that? Yeah, I don't know.
Especially of a certain age, like certainly early 20s, like Chongor is. I think that is exactly what would happen in that. To be fair, Richard's not maybe past that stage a little bit, but most of the other men, yeah.
Yeah, fair enough. And who else? Who else do we have?
Well, Seamus James, and again, this is one of these things. He called himself James, and his name's Seamus. Nobody called him out of it or even made a joke. I thought that was going to be an easy joke. Unless they all realise that James is the English form of Seamus, or Seamus is the Irish form of James. Like, it's literally the same name.
Ooh.
But I can't imagine that any of those characters know that. Neal Stephenson might have known it. Yeah, you see? So, I mean, I thought that was going to be an easy joke to make, and then he could have turned around and said, but actually, it's the same name. Obviously, Neal Stephenson did, because that's why he picked James and Seamus, I think, as his anglicised version of it, for sure. But again, there was an opportunity for for a good joke that could have educated your learners or your readers and all that kind of stuff. But there you go.
Yeah.
Yes.
And it's another thing he could have used as over explanation. We could have got a whole 5 paragraphs on that.
Absolutely, we could have had the history of English rule of Ireland during a certain period of time. Like, to be honest, that'd have been good shit.
Yeah. Yeah, if it was an actual history lesson. Do that.
Yeah. That would have been better than some of the stuff we got explanations for sure.
But it wasn't, like I say, I there's no time when I was reading this that I kind of went, I don't want to know what finds out next, because we are at that stage of the book. We are at the stage where we want to get people together. Okay, they're converging on this one place. It seems ridiculous given how far spread around the world they've been to a certain extent. The fact that, like, to me, it almost feels like Sokolov swam from Xiamen to Seattle. I mean, that's sort of what it felt like. And this, he kind of reached shore and went, "Where am I? Oh, I'm in Seattle." Like it was an accident or something. But
I should have taken that left turn in Albuquerque.
I could have ended up in San Francisco. It would have been much nicer. I don't know. Like, Seattle, as I probably told you before, it's somewhere I've always wanted to go. So maybe it was intentional. But again, ridiculousness aside, like, they're all within this kind of very narrow area of the world where they're kind of all on top of each other.
Yeah.
Although
just swim to here. Yes.
Yeah, I did like the fact that they did say that Abdullah Jones rapped lots of doors to try and find Richard. Although, if they were banging and banging over a 20-minute period, surely they would have moved on. Like, if, do you know what I mean? If he was on the game and having that conversation, they would have moved on. But anyway, he wouldn't have been abducted. We wouldn't have excitement.
And the abduction is like a vacation for him, and he will build a business after this to abduct rich people to their vacations.
Was it necessary to describe Zula digging the hole and doing a poo to get the key out?
Was it necessary to tell us about how she shoved a tampon up her wherever she shoved it? I don't remember.
That was okay. That was okay, but then we went into minute detail about how she got the key out.
Okay.
I mean, I think cause and effect. You could have kind of did it and just kind of said, "Oh, remember the key's up there," and then cut forward 20 steps. Got the key. Tried the key. The key worked. Awesome. And not a bear in sight. Not a bear in sight either.
Now, it would have been necessary if there was a bear. Then we would have had something.
Good old suppository. I mean, not necessary. But again, within that and around that, I thought the explanation of her being vigilant of the sniper and all her awareness of the world around her actually worked quite well descriptively. You know, the idea that you're kind of, just risk it, and then you get payoff like he's having a smoke or whatever. I thought that was quite effective in that regard. But again, these unnecessary details, especially about female anatomy, are like, why is this needed?
I'll be honest, I listened to that when there was some large background noise. I did not listen to most. Did not really pay attention to a lot of it. So I'm glad that I missed the bit about the poop. But yeah, I did say the thing about the tampon. Yeah, I'm not liking wherever this is going. So when I did decide to not pay attention because of what she did to hide the key. Okay, thank you very much. But what else happens in these sections?
So very interestingly, a way to keep Marlon in the story is to make him the guy with the money.
Oh yes, yes.
Yeah, that was pretty cool.
That was pretty clever. How that's how they keep him involved in a needful character. Because otherwise, just like Yuxia, he could have been just kind of like dead weight, and he didn't know what to do with him. Other than that fact, because he was I mean, yeah, he's the guy who started this virus. He's the troll.
Yep.
But he doesn't really have a role now, except for the fact that the money comes into play. And so it would be interesting to see how he interacts with the players, other players coming up here, or how people react to him. Well, Richard, and then the Zula, and even like the C+ guy and what have you, and all that stuff. And, because this is the name of the book. It's what this guy did. So you have to have him in here somehow.
And also the name of his character, apparently. That was pretty cool, that introduction. Yeah. But there's a nice sense of poetic justice around that, because Zula got abducted because of his thing, and now he's paying what he earned or off of it to go presumably be part of the group that saves her. So
yeah. So on that idea, where's it going? What's going to happen?
Yes, what's going to happen? I think, based on the length of the Thanksgiving thing, that Zula, they'll manage to save Zula, but Jones will escape. And then we may come back around Thanksgiving. Something will happen that will allow his capture, maybe within T-Rain.
Ah. Interesting. I hadn't thought about that, but that's not bad. Not bad. Better than what I got.
Yeah.
I just feel like Richard's going to outsmart them. I think it's going to be a Richard kind of solution, because
I hope so.
It feels that's the way that it's going. There'll be a nod and a wink, and Zula will duck to the left, and somebody will get shot through the head when she ducks to the left, and that kind of stuff. But it does feel like he's... I think Abdullah Jones is going to underestimate Richard in terms of, he just thinks he's a rich programmer guy, got lucky, that kind of stuff isn't, and even though he's kind of out of his depth, he has some background and experience in dealing in high pressure situations. So therefore, I think that's likely where I think it's going. I don't particularly foresee a gunfight, though. I have to say, I don't necessarily see that. But there you go.
That makes sense. I do think... I'm trying to remember, the end of Snow Crash was a bit of a gunfight, I think. I don't know. Jared, do you remember it?
I do not.
I don't recall. I just remember, and it might have been not in the real world, maybe in a simulated environment.
There's a lot of simulated stuff in that.
Yeah.
I remember, so I don't know.
In the metaverse.
Or a sword fight or something. I don't know.
Yeah. Yeah, it will be interesting. I think there will be action, but it'll be interesting to see what form it takes, right? Because even all the gunfights that did happen, they kind of happened a little off page. We learned about them after the fact, except the Shongor scene on the deck. But because the Jones thing with Sokolov happened outside off page. The Sokolov pretending to be dead, that wasn't strictly a gunfight, though. He just shot the gun a few times. Anyway, we'll see. There may or may not be a gunfight. I don't have strong opinions about that. What else? Cool. What do you think, Jared? What will happen next?
Oh, my theory that this is all a video game isn't going to hold.
Oh no, it's a great theory. I do like it, and in a lot of ways, I hope that's exactly what happens.
Video game within video game. That would be cool. I think that will be a nice recursive structure to a book. I don't know if this one's going there, but that's a nice idea for a book.
That's what's going to happen. That's what's going to happen.
Okay.
Rich is going to die, right?
In
a gunfight. and then they're gonna go back to Thanksgiving, the original one. Everybody's gonna take off their virtual reality helmets,
Oh,
and
I like that.
Sue
Oh,
was gonna go, "I got you, Uncle Richard."
oh
Nice.
man.
That's excellent. Because, oh, I like that. I kind of want that to be true. No, no matter what the ending is, it's not going to work for me because I could have had that as an ending. Anyway, are we ready to move on to the short story?
Yes.
Excellent. Let's save the universe. An
Yeah.
open letter from Ijon Tiki.
Tiki, yeah. Polish word for quiet.
No, there you go. Interesting. So, summation of the story: humanity is a disease, and this is a satire on that idea of how local wildlife, fauna, animals adapt to the presence of humanity and mimic their behavior, and what is okay for humanity is not okay for plants and fauna trying to survive or adapt in some ways. I think it's quite cutting and quite forthright in its opinions on a lot of this stuff, and like I say, it's done very much in this form of a satire the whole way through it, because he is very much making fun of it, and he includes drawings, which I really appreciated. I would almost read this as a graphic novel in some ways, because the picture of, especially of the ants forming together and make a wicker sheet, was particularly awesome.
Yeah, that was cool. He right off the bat, he says changes are painful, and changes in this case are not for the better, and everything should be in moderation. So he's really giving us a powerful indictment of our vices. In this story is what he says, and like tourism, he craps on tourism, he craps on civilization leaving their rubbish around, and can't see the stars for all the rubbish, and so it's he has an environmental theme in there. That was pollution was a big concern back when this was written. And so he touches on a lot of social issues, and he gives us a almost like a origin of the species type of breakdown with all the different species that they come across in the galaxy or whatever we have galaxy. So I kind of appreciated that, because as you were getting that detail on those species, then you would get the biting commentary afterwards or before it, and so it was kind of good. I liked it.
Yeah, same. I enjoyed the story. I appreciated the environmental themes. I think I was curious. There's been, I think, 3 from Modern also clearly environmental focused. This one is, and I feel like we've met a few in the last few stories that have climate change themes. So I was looking up just now when we started to research and discover the climate change and potential greenhouse effect and all of that. It seems it was around this time, like 1967 was climate change model for the first time, and they predicted 68. They predicted melting ice caps. This is all from like one website. I haven't checked it for accuracy, and this story was published in 71. So since these are arranged in chronological order, I wonder if we're seeing this greater focus on climate and environmental themes because of that. It'll be interesting to see how many more like this we meet.
Yeah, it's interesting to me, especially because I think in what we would consider the Western world, like America and Britain and that kind of stuff, I don't think 71 was necessarily the hive of economic um, kind of concern about environmental issues. Like that didn't happen there, but in Eastern Europe, it definitely was. And a lot of films and things around that time kind of spoke to that.
It was big in America because
Was it? Yeah.
that was what led to the push to create the EPA.
Right. Okay. Yeah.
Pollution was a big concern. Not so much climate change, but pollution.
Yeah. But yeah. Okay.
Was a big concern. That led to the creation of the EPA during these. I think it was in '72 actually that the EPA was created.
Interesting then. Yeah.
By President Nixon of all people, and and that was because of just vast pollution in rivers, in industrial companies really just dumping their waste wherever they wanted, and that there was a big that was also a part of the smaller, less heard about protests in the 60s was because of
right.
pollution.
Okay. Yeah.
You hear, of course, most of the protests you hear about are civil rights, but
yeah,
there were pollution protests as well during the
60s,
and that eventually led to the creation of the EPA. So this story came out like a year before that.
That's great insight. Yeah.
Yep. Yeah, good story. I liked the tone of it too, and I love that it's an open letter to, I guess, the universe. And I think it gives this sense of human expansion without so it does the thing where apparently like entire stars and nebulae are polluted because human tourists go there and drink too much Gatorade or whatever. But it does it in a way that I like, right? Like there's the expanding humanity to the size of universe versus shrinking the universe to the size of humanity. It did the expansion thing, which I appreciate. So it felt very believable, all of it. I can believe that like we can get to a size and state of the world, and it's not like it's the entire universe. It's all the places that are worth seeing are being polluted and not being cared for in the way that we probably should. Which, yeah.
It is my favorite one was the thing that reacts to being taken pictures of. And in two ways, it's short-sighted, so it doesn't always be able to detect what's a camera. It sometimes sees ice trays and things as being cameras and reacts to that. But also it it changed over time and was able to react from much further away. People thought it was a mistake, but it was due to the use of telephoto lens. That it was like evolving too much. The use of telephoto lens, which again I thought was actually very funny.
Yeah. And I like the one that pretends to be taverns, the mirages of taverns. It's like it's random. It did hospitals and libraries and stuff, but nobody cares.
So starved.
Yeah.
That's funny.
And the one the bird that can write instead of speak, and it just writes a bunch of swear words that the tourists use. Yeah.
Of course, I read this right before lunch, and I read the roast scribble mark, and I was like, "Oh, I'm so hungry."
I'd literally eat anything, even a scribble muck. Yeah, fun.
And the egg that apparently creates spores and then makes drunkards out of little children that kicks.
Oh, yeah. That's fun.
Anyway, good story. Anything else about that before we ramp up? Nope. Okay, great. Thank you so much for listening. We'll see you next week with the last of Reamde. And no short story next week, but we will start a memory called Empire the week after that. Thank you so much for listening, and we'll see you soon. Bye.